Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 102 of A Journey Through Grief, the year of first. This is the Check In with Val podcast. Thank you for coming on back. This is the second episode. If you missed episode 101, please check that out because it will kind of continue with what we did in the first episode. But just as a brief overview, as I turn down a little bit of this background music here, my name is Val, and I decided to launch this channel. I'm stepping out on faith, launch this channel, and this is the second episode. Now, if you hear a lot of ruckus in the background, it's my four dogs. I do this from the comfort of my home. I am in the midst of my year of first of losing my husband. It has been a very rough last 6, 7 months for me. And in the midst of going through grief and trying to get a handle on it so that I can function, you all, so that I can make it hour to hour, or shoot, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, came up with activities that would kind of help me push through. And these activities I have been compiling into an ebook. Of course, my dog always wants to be on camera. So as I go through these podcasts with you, you might see a dog or two, or the camera might move here and there. It's only because they're jealous and they want me giving them undivided attention at all times, all four dogs. But getting back to this episode two, which is 102, the one we're in right now, is going to pick up from where we left off with episode one. Episode one, I shared that one of the beginning exercises that I found myself doing was one that was basically a storytelling journal. And although I don't always write everything down in journal form, I prefer to get on videotape, take my phone out and videotape myself to get that raw feelings out. And that way on camera, if I cry, I cry. If I scream, I scream. If I shout, I shout. And that's just my preferred way of video journaling. But a lot of you all have journals, and I welcome you to start one, whether it's a video log or whether it's through journaling on paper in a booklet. Whatever works for you, do. And on episode 101, I shared that it's really important to start with your origin story. Your origin story, although it might be very difficult, especially when you're going through your year of first, to think back on how you two met. It's okay. Let the tears flow, let the shouts happen. Hey, if you curse, you curse. If you can't get through it, you can't get through it. Do a little bit today, do a little bit tomorrow. I know that I had to start my camera over several days and probably several weeks to get through my whole story because at first it wasn't so easy. But I wanted to remember that story. I wanted to talk to people about it, and I had no one to talk to in a sense because I'm thinking, who wants to hear how I met my husband? So that is why I started videotaping myself. And when I tell you, it felt good to do it. I felt so much lighter. And so I put this, like I said, I've been compiling an ebook, The Ruckus Children here. I've been compiling an ebook and I wanted to share. Stop, 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 stop. You all are moving the camera. I have a puppy, a 1.5 year old, a 3 year old, almost four, and a 4 year old fur babies. So again, sorry. I've been gone all day and I didn't want to lock them out as I did this simple little podcast. And let me just say to you guys, please like, please share, please subscribe. This is only my second show and I need you guys to subscribe because apparently I can't do live shows. Can't do anything live until I have so many subscribers and so many people watch the videos. It's just how it is. So I hope that you're doing that. And don't feel that you have to watch this talking head just talk. Hey, while you're cleaning up, listen to my story. It was really meant to be a podcast. I prefer actually not to be in front of a camera for everyone to see, but this is the way of the world. So this mid 50s person decided to start her own podcast. You all pray for me now. So I'm going to pick up where I left off on yesterday. And again, that was in sharing the origin story because I did have a few people that asked, well, Val, we want to hear your origin story. And I kind of mentioned on the other day that my husband and I, if one started the story, the other one was going to finish the story and probably was going to interrupt and say, hey, hey, that's not exactly what happened. Let me tell you the real deal. So I am going to share at least pieces of my origin story with you because I don't want to keep you too long, as the preacher says. So let me tell you the real deal. My husband and I met or actually had our first real date. Um, and we met through Match.com. But we realized during our date that we had not so positive first introduction until our very first, face to face. We're sitting here at dinner. So let me just say this. We met on Match.com. We were each other's last match. He wanted to get off the match. From what he told me, he was sick of it. I definitely was sick of it because I was sick of the frauds. And it was just not working out. I did match on a dare. A friend of mine dared me. Oh, Val, you wouldn't put your profile up on Match. And I did. Just as a dare, just because he dared me. And I probably was on Match for maybe 5 months, maybe. And when I came across my future husband's profile, it just made me laugh. And so we did connect, and we connected in September, from what I can remember, but we did not meet until October. It was about a month later. Either he was always busy, I was always busy, and we had wonderful conversations, but we just couldn't figure out a time to meet. So we finally decided, and I was pretty much over it. I'm just like, okay, let me meet this joker and get on with my life and get off of this Match.com thing because I'm sick of it. He was feeling the same way. He was on his way to Paris, I think, to do uh, some music production or something with music and film scoring, and I was just ready to get it over with. So this is when we meet, and while we're meeting, we decided we were going to finally meet up for drinks. We're going to meet up for dinner at my neighborhood bar, and I figured, if nothing else, I knew that I would enjoy my burger, and I was going to get a mojito, and it was going to be all good. And it was over food and conversation that we realized that we had met many moons before when I was a teacher producing a musical performance with my middle school students. So you have to think back. This is maybe, we realized it was about 10 to 12 years prior to us on that first date. And all I remember is that I was producing this musical performance. It was a room full of kids. We were using our neighborhood park district's uh, auditorium gymnasium, really. And all of the school was there because I was a little famous for putting on these big productions, and the kids were always excited about performing it. But this is the thing, the show was running about an hour late due to the music teacher not having the audio set up and working mics as he should have. So the students were antsy and ready to perform. The teachers were all trying to keep all of their children quiet and seated. in this crazy auditorium. They were seriously annoyed with me because I know that they would rather be in their rooms grading papers, and this thing was running so late. The parents who usually would have been cursing me out were actually glad that I was running late because they were still getting into their seats and wanted to see their babies perform. But I had my principal who, she gave me that stank eye and came over to me and told me that this performance needs to start in the next 5 minutes or we're going to have to cancel it. And that was something I really didn't want to do. Anyone who's been a teacher before and you know you prepare, let's just say for the Christmas pageant, you know that you practice, the kids are all dressed, everyone's excited. You don't want to have to delay this thing. So, needless to say, I was totally frustrated with my coworker who, during the run through the previous day, I was like, "Where are the mics? Where are the mics?" "Oh, don't worry," because he's boasting about how he had these high tech mics, had this professional sound guy, and he was going to set up the mics and blah 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 blah. Well, now we're here in an auditorium full of 800 people, running an hour late, no mics, no sound, no sound guy. And just as my principal was headed right back over my way, I could see the music teacher walking, you know, steadfast towards me. And right behind him was this man in this brightly colored blue blazer who was all teeth, you all. He was all teeth, smiling as though he had just won the lotto. I'm thinking to myself, this had better be the sound guy and these working mics so that we can get this show on the road. That's the only thing on my mind. By this point, I know I was boiling over with a little bit of anger due to the late start. So now would not be the best time to do those long introductions and pleasantries. But unfortunately, the music teacher didn't read my facial expressions and he didn't see that I was ready to go. And he excitedly introduced me to Mr. Smiley Man. This is where the retelling of our story between my husband and I would differ. Because according to my husband, my husband was Mr. Smiley Man. According to my husband, I immediately looked him up and down, hmm, supposedly like a piece of just crap, rolled my eyes, and snatched the mic, and then went on stage to start the performance. Now, I can't see myself doing all of that. I really don't remember that. How I remember it is when introduced, I returned a half smile. I nodded my head as to say hello. And I have no recollection of rolling my eyes and snatching a mic. My only focus was to kick off this show, which I did. However, my husband always stuck to his guns. He said, "Nope, nope, 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 nope. This is what you did." And truly, I don't remember it other than him being very, very late, him having on a bright blue red, not red, blue blazer and sporting his Cheshire the cat smile, which I returned with a simple nod. Now, what's crazy is the music teacher was telling me how it's the sound guy, this sound guy. So I'm expecting a sound guy, some overalls and some jeans to come up, you know, beard messed up, stubble and everything. And I was like, this guy is surely dressed nice to be a sound guy. And what I found out later from my husband is that apparently the music teacher has set up this fabulous audio equipment. And my husband said more than likely the people were like, I'm not going to the South Side School to set up some mics for these kids, and never just, did a no show on him. I found out that the music teacher who had a working relationship with the Park District of Chicago Parks and Chicago school system obviously had working relationships. So he called up my husband, who he knew was over all of the music in the Chicago Park District. My husband, begrudgingly, he said, came out on a Friday night, with his mice, but he wasn't gonna leave them there. So he came out. He was dressed, he worked at the downtown office, so he was professionally dressed, and that's why I guess he had on his suit, his blue blazer, and he was very coiffed, but I had absolutely no interest in him. I was just mad that the sound guy was late. And as we're sitting over dinner, both of us retelling and remembering that story, we are cracking up and we're in disbelief that we had met each other that many moons ago. But we to the day my husband died, we stuck to our stories of how we reacted. We had no idea that that blind match date that we had was going to turn into a lifetime of love, and that we had met so many moons ago and didn't have the best of experiences. Because after that initial meeting, I don't ever remember thinking of that man again. I couldn't even really picture his face other than the teeth and the blazer. And he said he could not necessarily remember my face, but he would hear everyone was calling my name because they were ready for the show to start. And so when I said my last name to him on our date, he that's what triggered the memory. So I say all of this to tell you that the experience of retelling your origin story may at first seem daunting. Again, it may not be something that you can have handle right away. Thank you for my kiss. My dogs are just really like, hurry up with the story, ma'am. um, it's daunting, and because you have to relive, you have to sit in those memories. But I'm telling you, every time I think back to that, our origin story, I smile and smile and smile because it makes me feel good, you all. It makes me feel wonderful. So, sorry again, my dog's moving everything. I got the other one that came in. So you all, as you think back to your origin story, again, think back to how you guys met. Was there anything funny or was it totally uneventful? And believe me, it could have been. Mine wasn't so much. That story, I'm telling you, it kept my husband and I laughing for almost 17 years that we were together, because eventually someone would ask us, how did we meet? And that story would come up, and would just crack us up. So basically, the prompt that you see on your screen is the prompt that I use for myself to help me think back to my funny story. And again, I did it on video. You can use your own journal. And as I shared in episode 101, hey, if you want to put yourself into the mood. The other day, I had my candle burning. I, had a nice little drinky drink, and I put myself into a mood to be able to think back to those wonderful times. Now, what I want you all to do is I want you to think back to your origin story. And if you want to share with me something, a funny moment, feel free to write it in comments if it's not too personal, obviously. My whole idea is that we would be able to start a community where we can talk with one another, where we can do some private supportive times. Right now, because I'm new to YouTube, again, I cannot do my live shows, but we can definitely figure out something where we can talk to each other. But I encourage you to do your own origin story. And if you're interested, even though it's in draft form, if you're just interested in uh, chapter one, let's just say chapter one. Chapter one also has some ideas around music therapy or music meditation. Again, I'm not a therapist, I am just a grieving wife. Okay. My background is in education. And so I decided to work on myself and develop a curriculum for me to help me get through grief. Another thing, since I am a grieving wife, since I am a widow, I am coming from a widow's perspective. But that doesn't mean that you can't adjust this for whatever type of grief in your loss that you're going through. It's good to look back. It's good to remember. And although it's very difficult, that's okay. So, this is episode 102. Again, I hope that you will subscribe to my channel. It's called Check In with Val. We are in the midst of our series of A Journey Through Grief, the year of first on the Check In with Val show. I hope that you all will comment. I hope that you will like and most importantly, subscribe and share with other people so that I can grow my audience, you all. Again, this is new for me. So if you have any suggestions for me, I'm willing to take them because I just jumped into the deep end. That's all I did. I just jumped into the deep end. And I know that God will provide. So it must be time for me to play with my fur babies, to feed them, to give them some extra love. And stay tuned to the next drop when I go into uh, episode 103. Okay. If you again have any questions, comments, feel free to do that. Subscribe, like, and share. You all be blessed. Have a fabulous rest of your day or rest of your week. Be good to yourself, right? If you're not going to be good to yourself, who else is going to be good to you? So you got to be good to yourself.